Hey there guys, so there's a small change of plans. Originally this was going to be a 4-part series and part 4 was going to be focused on mobility. I was going to end by performing some flips myself to see how much the training had benefited me. That's still on the way. But it turns out that Grant is crazy good at martial arts tricking, which is essentially weaponized acrobatics. These are the kinds of kicks that Nightwing might actually use, and they showcase the kind of power and body awareness you'd need to move like him. In this video, Grant's going to demonstrate some basic moves and provide an overview of the subject. There's also some training advice, including another core workout that he uses that I think is insanely good and hits all the major muscles of the core described in the last video, but in a faster and more explosive manner. So enjoy, and who knows what will happen in part 5.
In this video we're going to be looking at some of the acrobatic martial arts or tricking techniques that Nightwing may possibly use in his arsenal. These moves came from many different disciplines, including traditional martial arts styles, gymnastics, wushu, capoeira and breakdance, to name but a few, and since the late 90s have been grown into a much broader discipline known as tricking, martial arts tricking, or sometimes extreme martial arts. Now this is a little disclaimer, these techniques are clearly not supposed to be practical. It's kind of funny I have to mention that. Obviously Nightwing's a fictional character and this video is just intended to look at some of the tricking moves and real training methods that he might use were he to really exist. So what this video is going to be focusing on primarily is the actual techniques themselves, with a little gymnastic core conditioning thrown in as well at the end. And as we have limited time, this is just going to be a general overview of a few of the moves rather than a full-on tutorial for each, but we may be able to go into more detail on that sort of thing in future videos. In my experience, the way to train the body most effectively to do something that requires a high level of body control and coordination is overwhelmingly just by doing the activity over and over again, and that should take up around 80 to 90% of your actual work on these skills. One of my favourite people to listen to and learn from is Faraz Zahabi, who's an amazingly knowledgeable MMA trainer, most famous for working with George St. Pierre, and somebody who's far ahead of his time in my opinion. Faraz doesn't believe in giving up any days of actual practice upon your skills in favour of strength and conditioning work. Rather, that stuff should be done after the actual skill practice, not as a priority, and not to a level where your body becomes too fatigued to train the next day. And training like this is going to engage the SAID principle, which stands for Specific Adaptation to Imposed Demands, which is pretty self-explanatory and why there isn't really one type of fitness or strength. For example, if you take a high-level boxer and a high-level wrestler, both extremely fit and adapted to their disciplines, but now you take the wrestler and have him do a few boxing rounds, not only is he going to look super clunky, but he's going to be exhausted in no time, because he's not used to that skill, and the same is true and vice versa. A big part of what helps this is also having an incredibly economical technique for the skill that you're practicing, which also goes a long way towards being faster overall. Now there's many different styles of tricking moves, and we're going to be focusing on primarily techniques that Nightwing may potentially use as an attack or an evasion. With that in mind, the first thing you really want to develop is your basic kicking techniques. If your basic kicks are sloppy and uneconomical, when you start adding spins and jumps to them, you're already going to be starting at a weak foundation and they won't be very fast and effective. I'd recommend practicing these in both a traditional line kicking style that you see in taekwondo classes, as well as doing some slow kicking drills holding onto something for balance. Now the first move we're going to be looking at is a jump 360 crescent kick, which is quite self-explanatory. You jump, spin round and kick with the outside of your foot in a crescent kicking manner. The only prerequisite to this is really a crescent kick, and you can use this move to begin combinations of others as well. Flash kick, which is basically just a layout backflip with a kick in there, made famous by Guile from Street Fighter. Be comfortable with back tuck, and it can also help to be good at a layout back if you want that nice arched flash kick as well. Also be sure not to kick too late in the move to make sure you can see the kick clearly. Aerial is basically a no-handed cartwheel, and the obvious prerequisite to this is a fast and powerful cartwheel or one-handed cartwheel. It can be added to with a kick at the end with a trailing leg, and you can also make it more powerful by using a spin hook kick beforehand. Tornado is one of the foundational kicks to many other jump spinning kicks, and it's really important to have it down solidly to more easily progress to higher level moves. Now the tornado progresses nicely to a 540 kick, which is like a tornado kick where you land on the kicking leg, hence the need for a high and powerful tornado kick with the chest held high to gain airtime. Cheat 900 is the same takeoff position as the tornado kick and 540, but there's an extra spin before the kick comes out. And in this one you're just kicking like a tornado kick as well. A side swipe is very much like a 540 kick, where we take off, kick, then land on the same leg. However, it's done at an inverted angle, meaning the hips are higher than the head, whereas the 540 is done more upright like a tornado kick. The touchdown raise or rise has the same takeoff as a side swipe and is mainly used as a transition to other moves. The difference is you put your hand down when inverted to take some of your body weight and create a powerful setup for swing through moves like a gainer or corkscrew. In this clip you can see me using the TD raise as a follow up to a side swipe. This is the butterfly twist, which is the follow-on from the butterfly kick, and this is a really nice looking move that I originally saw in Wushu. In these clips I'm doing an advanced version called a hyper hook, where you land on the opposite leg and throw out a hook kick at the end. Finally, we're looking at cartwheel setup techniques. It's like a round off in gymnastics, but is able to be combined with tricking kicks better when done side to side as a cartwheel. Here I'm doing cart Arabian, which is a basic one, and then a twisting variation afterwards. Now onto the gymnastic core conditioning exercises. These are to be done with no rest in between, and they're quite difficult, so if you're starting out I'd recommend 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps 3 times per week and build from there. Okay, so the first one is the V-up. Try to fold your torso against your legs as closely as you can with your arms going past your legs on each repetition. The alternate V-up. Touching one hand to the opposite leg simultaneously, keeping your legs and arms as straight as possible and then returning to the hollow position before repeating. The tuck up. Try to get your knees as close to your chest as you can and then push them back out. I like to do these quite fast and explosively. Hollow or dish rocks. I'm rocking my weight back and forward using my legs and arms to counterbalance myself each time, putting strain on the core to remain steady. Place the lead elbow on the floor and the hand on the head and the other hand flat on the ground to push your head and arm off the floor as you lift your legs straight into the air at the same time. Be sure not to fold forward at the waist on these and keep in a nice straight line. Arch ups. These are kind of like reverse V-ups, but obviously with not as much movement. Pretty easy to see what's going on in this clip. And lastly, this is the hollow or dish hold. The only part of your body that should really touch the floor are your butt and your lower back. Hold this for 15 to 30 seconds. Okay, so I've got all the exercises listed here. V-ups, alternate V-ups, tuck-ups, hollow rocks, oblique side bends, arch ups, and hollow hold. Remember to start with 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps 3 times per week and then build from there. It's better to remain consistent and use the principle of compounding rather than to burn yourself out and not be able to train for a few days after or whatever. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please follow me on my Instagram, which is where I tend to upload most of my training clips and things like that, and feel free to send me a message with any questions.